Hi, everybody. I want to jump on here really quickly and talk about how there is a 98% chance that Diddy will go to prison for the rest of his life on a RICO charge, even though this isn't a RICO case. But before we get into all of that, let's talk about how he has gotten himself into this situation in the first place.
Diddy sues Diageo, who is the owner of Ciroc, for racism or something like that. Diageo allegedly sends out private investigators to start snooping around and seeing some shit that Diddy might do. There's one way that you could nullify their contract, and that is if he breaks a morality clause. So if you were charged with a federal crime, that might be enough to break your contract, right? Because, for example, if you're the ambassador of a brand, but then you're charged with a felony, you can't stay on as the ambassador for the brand. So that would nullify it. So maybe in an effort to save the $1 billion payout or whatever it was, they tell these private investigators dig up as much as possible. They've got connections to feds. I mean, this is the liquor lobby at the end of the day, right? This is a very powerful lobby. They start giving them this information, and then the feds go after it. They have a real case.
And not only did he sue them because he thought they were racist, this is a part a lot of people don't know. He sued them for 50% of their company. Now, Diddy must be out of his mind. No one's going to just give you 50% of their company because you think it should be marketed to the urban market in a certain way. I mean, if you really think about it, I hate to say it, but they didn't have any choice. They had to save their company. You, in a sense, made them a ridiculous deal. Let me put it that way. It's just no way they were going to do that. So, according to the rumors, they went to the feds. And they got a case. They got a case on him. Now, according to the rumors, once the case was open, the feds approached Cassie. It was not the other way around. They approached Cassie, and they wanted her to sue Diddy. And according to the rumors, they are doing to her what they did to everybody else, every single witness in this case. Either you go against Diddy or we go against you. Nobody in their right mind wants to go up against the feds. Now, according to the rumors, it was the feds that helped Cassie write up this lawsuit. Okay, so we all heard the story about how at first Diddy wasn't going to give her the money. And then once she filed the paperwork, she got a deal of $20 million within 24 hours. Days after that, he also settled with Diageo, the alcohol company. And I really do think he thought if he just settled with these people, he could move on with his life. What he didn't know, it was too little too late. The feds were already onto him and determined to bring some charges against him. Now, let's not forget, the feds are almost obligated to go through with the lawsuit. If they knew things were like this were going on, they had to follow through with the lawsuit. Or did they? We'll get to that in a minute. This case, they knew this case was going to be bigger than the Harvey Weinstein case because it was crazier. It had way more players. He had way more money than Harvey Weinstein. It was just going to be the trial of the century, which this is what it's turning into. So now, once they knew all the players and what was going on, they followed through with RICO charges, okay? And that is a very wide spectrum. I feel like people still don't understand what RICO is.
People are still coming back to me and saying, well, they have not proved sex trafficking or have not proved RICO. RICO. RICO requires two predicate acts. What does this mean? First, they have to prove an enterprise, a corrupt organization, if you will. I know they have not done that yet, but they have to prove the corrupt organization. After proving the corrupt organization, they have to prove that that corrupt organization engaged in at least two criminal predicate acts. Sex trafficking is one. There are multiple witnesses that they're going to try to utilize to prove sex trafficking, not just Cassie. Forced labor. And that's what all the employees are going to be testified for. They're going to testify that they have been forced employees, if you will, and we'll go through that later. That's forced labor. Then you still have the blowing up of a car, which is arson, and then you still have the prostitution. If they prove just two of those and the corrupt organization, then they have a RICO charge.
So not only does the government bring a RICO charge to court without the RICO. Once you start putting the witnesses on the stands, people started realizing all of the witnesses' stories, well, they just don't make any sense.
This Diddy case, man. Man, it's like when with the R. Kelly case.
Yeah.
When I was telling everybody about the Mann Act,
Yeah.
and y'all better pay attention, this, that, and other, and people thought I was defending R. Kelly.
Exactly.
And I wasn't. I'm just telling you, y'all need to pay attention.
That's right.
These women are sitting out here reaping the benefits of a celebrity lifestyle, and then turn around and want to be victims when the well runs dry, or the person don't want to deal with you no more.
Yeah.
And that's where we at with the Diddy case, man. And I'm so pissed off with these chicks, this Jane chick, Cassie, the Mia chick, the girl with the B in her name, I can't think, who was the drug head that was bringing all the drugs. It's like all these women are now victims, and you got these women out here, oh, Diddy was abusive and they couldn't get away from him. Like they can't say no.
Yeah.
Y'all, what point that when do y'all could just say no? Did they go to the police? No. Did Cassie go call the police for anything? No. When she got beat up in the hotel and the security came, he asked, do you want me to call the police? No. When Diddy Poser had beat her up and this, that, and the third, no. The chick get hung over the balcony allegedly, right? Come to find out, they lying about that. Did they call the police? No. When the stuff supposed to happen with Kid Cudi and all that, did they call the police? No. Nobody calls the police. This Jane chick, oh, I did it because, I felt obligated because he was my boyfriend. So you tell me you sleeping with all these men, and all he doing is sitting there off in the back watching you beating off.
Yeah.
And you telling me you couldn't tell him no? No, because I felt obligated. He was giving me 10 grand a month. Bitch, you's a prostitute.
Not only that, outside the courtroom, you had all these people claiming to know Cassie, claiming to know Diddy, claiming to be the insider of what was really happening in the case, when there's absolutely no evidence that you even knew Diddy or Cassie. It really got complicated. Everybody had all these different stories going on, making the situation worse. Of course, Diddy knew all of this was going on outside the courtroom, and he really needed somebody to turn to. He needed a specialist. This is when Joe Tacopino came into play. Now, Joe is a high-powered attorney with a stellar reputation, stellar. He just got off of the ASAP Rocky trial. Now, I always say a lot of times, if they offer you some kind of immunity, some kind of plea deal, take it. And even if you feel that you are innocent, and deal with the rest of the stuff later, because you don't know what's going to happen. I always say, take the deal until the ASAP Rocky case. He had a stellar attorney, okay? Joe was the creme de la creme. He told ASAP Rocky, do not take that deal, even though ASAP Rocky's life was on the line.
The jury in the above entitled action find the defendant, Rakeem Mayers, not guilty of not guilty of the crime of assault with firearm in violation of Penal Code Section 45, Section B, a felony of charging count 2 of the information this 18th day of February 2025, juror seat number 9, foreperson.
As we're in the YSL case, Young Thug is still on probation, I believe, for 10 years, and he didn't do anything wrong. Diddy turned to Joe. He needed help, but Joe didn't give him the help that he needed.
Let's go to something right up your alley. That is law. Now, I read this great story about you in the Post this week. It's a big story. New York Post. That's not a small thing. And you were right there, right by the top. and they were talking about all these really famous clients you have, and the Post kind of intimated or said flat out that P. Diddy, Charles Stoney, he wanted you, and you said no. Is that true?
That's true. Yeah.
Why would you say no? That is, you just did a great job with A$AP Rocky. I'm sure there's got to be a ton of money attached to P. Diddy. Why would you say no?
Would have been more money, probably than I've made in one single case, but it's not always about the money. He said it can't be about the money. There was a host of different reasons that went into that decision.
Do you think P. Diddy's guilty?
Do I think he's being treated unfairly? Yes. Do I think this is a RICO case or a sex trafficking case? Absolutely not. Do I think I could have won this case? Yes. The one count that's a difficult count is a count that is never, ever, Sid, I mean ever charged, which is the Mann Act count. The Mann Act count is simply a count where he's accused of bringing prostitutes across state lines, okay, for prostitution. I mean, just think about that. You go to Wall Street right now. Go pick out any 20 guys there and see, right? I mean, Elliot Spitzer, he wasn't prosecuted for that. That's what he did. I mean, he wasn't prosecuted for it. It goes on and on and on. It's weird that they'd actually prosecute him for that. It gives a little fodder to those arguments that he's being selected for this prosecution because of who he is, not what he is or what he did. I mean, this is a weird charge. It's not a charge that's ever been brought against other people. It's really shocking. But the other counts certainly are not counts that have merit. They're not counts that, in my opinion, he should lose. Now, this whole case is going to boil down to the issue of consent, period, end of story. Yeah. Just know that. That's
right.
a fact.
No, I know that. But there are also some people that say that the reason why Tacopina is staying away from this case, this is not me saying this, okay? You're my brother. I love you. The reason why Tacopina is staying away from this case is his deep-rooted loyalty to Jay-Z. And a lot of folks think that Jay-Z is really no different than P. Diddy.
Now, the rumor is, Jay-Z didn't allow his attorney to help Diddy. He wanted no parts of it. He wanted no parts of Diddy. He wanted no parts of the Circus Act, all of the media. According to the rumors, Jay-Z was just so pissed off at Diddy for even getting himself in this situation. According to the rumors, Diddy was shocked and hurt because they were supposed to be really good friends.
Who is Sean approved from the world of entertainment?
There's only one person.
Oh, go on.
And I call him Sean. That's Jay-Z. We call each other Sean.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody else could call me Sean.
He's the only person who's Sean approved.
There's not a single person that
outside of family.
That should be outside of my mother.
Okay, just
they should be calling me. Yeah, they should be calling me Sean.
Then all of a sudden, really weird things start happening. Kanye started tweeting about how he wants to apologize to Jay-Z. And then Joe does an about face and comes out protecting Diddy and even protecting him against Nancy Grace, who everyone is saying she's just on a witch hunt to get Diddy because she's got a tick, tick, boom in her head.
So, Joe, we have talked about this before where you kind of poo-pooed racketeering. I'm feeling it.
I'm still poo-pooing it because after this threat that apparently she now took seriously, she came back and asked for a job back after he got arrested. Don't forget, he was charged with this act, okay? And then she wanted her job back. She went to him and said, this never would have happened to you if you had just kept me as your employer, as your assistant. So let me say this. You know, these pieces of testimony, when you put it in context, cross-examination is important here. When she was cross-examined and it was brought out that she had actually asked for her job back after this alleged comment was made to her, clearly the comment didn't have much weight. It certainly didn't scare her. And certainly didn't faze her from wanting to be in his orbit again, even after the United States of America charged him with that act. So I see she's up there in a cartoon buffing her eye, but she really wasn't crying when she said, and look, from the people I've spoken to who are in there, who are court lawyers, who analyze cases as lawyers, they basically said to me that her testimony didn't really help the government. Let's remember, racketeering is not just a bunch of bad acts all clopped together. Racketeering is a racketeering enterprise. For the purpose of RICO, there's a racketeering enterprise. And what that has to be, here's the law. I'm going to read it because no one seems to want to deal with the fact that the racketeering enterprise has to exist before the acts are called RICO acts. So a law defines the enterprise as including any individual, partnership, corporation, association, or other entity, okay, and any union or group of individuals associated, in fact, although not a legal entity. And they can't be, so it's not basically a company who does a bunch of illegal things. It has to be an organization that was formed to commit crimes. Actually chose not to defend him here, Nancy, Grace, but I'm analyzing the law. And a jury is not going to be quick to accept Bad Boy Entertainment.
Somebody's getting mad. You get to turn red in the face and your eyes bulge out again.
Well, come on,
I can't
Nancy.
wait.
Nancy, come on.
At least my eyes move, Nancy. At least my eyes move. Relax.
Now, rumor has it that Jay-Z is softening on Diddy after watching the trial. They're saying that Kanye wants all of them to reconnect because at one point they were all good friends. And this is why Kanye showed up to court to show support for Diddy. Now, let's talk about how important it is to have Kanye West on your side. It's no secret that 47 likes Kanye West. He also was very influential in getting a pardon for Larry Hoover.
It started a long time ago with Kanye. Kanye put us on the platform, and Kanye and Kim were in touch with Alice. We seen Miss Alice, and we knew that was the way to go if we ever had a chance.
You would say Kanye did have a big part in making this happen.
Oh, he had a very big part because he started it all off. He put us on the platform. He took us to the White House on his platform when he didn't have to do that.
So rumor is, if for any reason that Diddy did end up going to jail, even though they don't have a RICO charge on him, that 47 will step in. And it's just not a rumor going around on the blogs. This is going around in the White House.
Asked a couple of weeks ago if he would consider pardoning P. Diddy, who's currently on trial for sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. In witness testimony, he's been described as violent and abusive. If this pardon were to happen, it would, of course, put an end to an emotional and taxing trial for his alleged victims. Is there any legal precedent for this?
It's very unusual to grant pardons to people who are the subject of ongoing cases, but that has not deterred this. President has undercut his own Justice Department multiple times by pulling the rug out from under prosecutions that they're actively pursuing. It would be very unusual to grant a pardon to somebody in this circumstance who's currently on trial, but the president does have the authority to do that if that's what he chooses. I will note that one of the things that the Department of Justice ordinarily does is solicit input from victims of crimes about how they would feel about a pardon. That step is being skipped by this current administration. The people who are victims of these crimes that are being pardoned are not being consulted for their input, which again is not how the process is supposed to work.